UConn's non-conference schedule is out, and it's possible that it could lead to one or two upsets for the Huskies. Let's talk about it. So what is up, awesome people of the internet? And welcome back to our series where we are taking a closer look at college women's basketball teams' non-conference schedules. In a previous video, we talked about LSU's schedule, and today we are delving into UConn's non-conference schedule. So this year, UConn is gearing up for a very strong season. They're aiming to compete for a national championship, and they have some of their key players back and healthy. They have Aaliyah Edwards, Paige Bueckers, AZ Fudd, along with a very talented group of freshmen and role players who are ready to get the job done. So UConn is a part of the Big East. This is a conference that has been dominated historically by the Huskies, although it is becoming a bit more competitive. To prepare for the NCAA tournament, UConn has stacked its non-conference schedule with challenging opponents, including 8 teams that were ranked in the top 25 last season. Now let's break down UConn's non-conference schedule week by week. So before the season kicks off, UConn has an exhibition / preseason game against Southern Connecticut State. And so that's going to be their warm-up basically for the season. The season actually starts on November 8th with UConn playing at home against Dayton. This is a team that UConn hasn't played since 2019, and UConn leads the series against Dayton 4-0. Dayton plays in the Atlantic 10 Conference, and last season the Flyers finished with a record of 7-21. On November the 12th, UConn travels to Raleigh to face North Carolina State. This is a team that UConn has beaten 7 times before, and NC State plays in the ACC, and last year the Wolfpack had a record of 20-12. On November 16th, UConn plays Maryland. This is their first meeting since 2022, when Maryland secured a very close victory against UConn. They won 85-78. Maryland plays in the Big Ten Conference, and last year they finished with a record of 28-7. On November 19th, UConn plays Minnesota in Minneapolis. Now, this is a very, very special game for Paige Bueckers because she hails from Hopkins, Minnesota, which is close enough to Minneapolis. So this is sort of a homecoming of sorts for Paige Bueckers. So I think that this game is probably going to be packed out. Because you're going to have a ton of people from Paige's hometown coming out to see her play for UConn against Minnesota. So that's going to be a fun game, but in a game that, of course, UConn should win. Minnesota plays in the Big Ten, and they've kind of been on a rough patch. They have a record of 11-19 from last season. Now, after that game, the Huskies will head down to the Cayman Islands for the Cayman Islands Classic. There, the Huskies will play 2 games. Their first game is against UCLA on November the 24th. And I'm going to say this right now, this game is going to be one of those must-see TV games of the season. UCLA has some huge pieces on their team. You have Kiki Rice, you have Charisma Osborne, and also you have newcomer Lauren Betts. So I think this game is going to be very, very good. This season, UCLA is still with the Pac-12, and last year they had a record of 27-10. UConn's second game in the Classic is a little bit easier. It's against Kansas. So Kansas plays in the Big 12, and last season they had a record of 25-11. After the Classic, UConn heads down to Austin to play Texas on December the 3rd. And so far, UConn has swept the series with a record of 9-0 against Texas. Texas also plays in the Big 12, and last year they had a record of 26-10. On December the 6th, UConn plays Ball State, and a fun fact about this game, Nika Mule's sister actually plays at Ball State. The last time that Ball State actually played UConn was way, way back in the day, in 2001, when the Huskies destroyed Ball State 103-69. So Ball State plays in the MAC conference, and last year they had a record of 26-9. So they're actually a pretty good team. They were in the I believe they were in the NAIA postseason tournament last year. They're a very solid team. It's just that they are still not quite in that UConn level of talent, but they're no scrubs. Ball State is a lot better than they have been in the past, and they're just continuing to improve. So very happy about Ball State, though they are going to get destroyed in this game, most likely. But at least Nika Mule will be able to see her sister. On December the 10th, UConn heads right up the road to Uncasville to play North Carolina in the Basketball Hall of Fame Women's Showcase. UConn leads the series against North Carolina 7-5, and they played last in 2012, and in that game, UConn won. North Carolina plays in the ACC, and last year they had a record of 22-11. On December the 16th, UConn plays Louisville. This is a team that I am very much interested in seeing play this season. Louisville lost a huge piece, and they gained a couple of other pieces that seem to be pretty interesting. So I am very much interested to see how they play this season. UConn played at Louisville last in 2021. This is a game that the Cardinals narrowly defeated the Huskies. They won in that game 69-64. Louisville plays in the ACC, and last year they had a record of 26-12. And this brings us to our next game, which is right before Christmas. UConn makes a special trip to Toronto to play Toronto Metropolitan. This game would be both teams' first time competing against each other. And truly, the only reason that UConn is actually playing this game is because it gives Aaliyah Edwards the chance to have some sort of a homecoming of sorts. She is from Kingston, Ontario, which is in Canada. And so just a quick aside, I really think it's awesome what Gino is doing this season. He's making sure that certain players have just fun experiences and some sort of connection to themselves. So for example, this Aaliyah Edwards one, this is her opportunity to play as close to home as she can possibly get and have a homecoming. She's from Canada, and so basically most of her year is spent in Connecticut, very, very far from where she's from. And so I just think it's awesome that Gino was like, okay, let's make sure we play in Toronto, you know, nearish to where Aaliyah Edwards is from, and have her family and friends be able to come out and actually watch Aaliyah Edwards play like at a high level in Canada. I just think it's awesome. And it's not just Aaliyah Edwards, it's Paige Beckers getting an opportunity to play in Minnesota in front of her family and friends as well. It's Nika Mule being able to play against her sister in Ball State. Like it's some of those like touches that to me just makes me smile. You know, it's awesome that Gino is sort of looking out, or someone, if he's not setting the schedule, someone in at UConn is looking out for their players and making sure they have different special moments, because this year is going to be a grueling year for UConn, and just having certain players be able to let their hair down and have fun. And of course they'll win. You know, they'll win this game against Toronto Metropolitan. They'll win the game against Minnesota. They'll win the game against Ball State. But not only are you getting the W, but you're getting a lot of goodwill from your players. And I think that takes you quite a bit of way when the season actually starts to get really, really tough towards like February and March. I just think it's awesome. What do y'all think? Let me know in the comments below about the decision of Gino to play Toronto Metropolitan, to play Minnesota, to play Ball State, knowing that the connections that those schools and those areas more specifically have to do with his players. So anyway, I thought it was interesting, so I just wanted to make sure to call that out. But yeah, anyway, back to it. Last year, Toronto Metropolitan had a record of 15-9. And I actually don't pay attention to Canadian basketball, or Canadian college basketball more specifically. So I don't know a real gauge for this team at all. So it's sort of like a wait and see type of thing. Of course, UConn will win, but by how many points? It's kind of a wait and see. We'll see. On January the 27th, UConn plays Notre Dame. Last year, the Fighting Irish had a record of 27-6, and for basketball, they play in the ACC. All right, now this leads us to the biggest game for the year for UConn. To finish out non-conference play, UConn plays South Carolina at Colonial Life Arena in South Carolina on February the 11th. Now, this game is another one of those must-watch TV games. UConn leads the series 9-4, and we all remember when South Carolina and UConn played last. They played last year, and the Gamecocks won that game 81-77. In that game, UConn just really couldn't deal with the 1-2 punch that was both Aaliyah Boston and Camila Cardoso. Like, they were awesome. They combined for 43 points and 22 rebounds in that game. Also, Raven Johnson was phenomenal off the bench. For y'all, you know, I made a, for y'all that don't know, I made a previous video about Raven Johnson and sort of talking about her. She's a phenomenal player. She is. She can pass. She can play some defense. She struggles with scoring, though in this UConn game, she did a pretty solid job in scoring. She had 14 points in that game. But she's a great facilitator, and she did a good job facilitating in that UConn game. I think she had like 7 assists in that game. So for y'all who are like, oh, you went too hard on Raven, she's not a bad player. She's a really good player. She just needs to have a more consistent shot. That's literally my only critique of hers. So if that is horrible, then, you know, it sort of is what it is. But yeah, so for UConn, they were led by Aaliyah Edwards, of course, Aubrey Griffin, Lou Lopez-Sinisal. They didn't have AZ Fudd or Paige Beckers in that game, so I'm sure that had a huge impact on the results of the game. I am very much looking forward to this UConn versus South Carolina game, and something I was sort of thinking about when looking at UConn's schedule, I'm wondering, is this that? So, for example, UConn, back in the day, it was UConn versus Tennessee. That was one of those yearly must-see TV games in the world of women's basketball. It was the legendary Pat Summitt versus the legendary Gino Auriemma. And it was a battle. It felt like every year that UConn would play Tennessee and the fan bases would go crazy. Like Tennessee had their fans, and I was, back in the day, I was a huge Tennessee fan. And I couldn't stand UConn. I really couldn't. But those were the games. Those really were the games that every year, basically, you look forward to watching them play. And it was great for women's basketball, and it was great for rivalries. Like, to this day, there's a ton of people who cannot stand UConn players because of this Tennessee versus UConn rivalry. There's a ton of people who stand with Candace Parker versus Gino Auriemma and the UConn Huskies because of this legendary competition between the two. And I'm wondering, is this that? Is this UConn versus South Carolina matchup like the previous Tennessee versus UConn matchup? Like, in terms of what it means for women's basketball. I love the fact that Gino and Dawn Staley are making sure to make this sort of a yearly matchup of sorts. I love it. For women's basketball, I think this is amazing. It's amazing to have these yearly rivalries that people can look forward to. Do I wish LSU did something like this? Yes. Of course, though, LSU will play UConn because they're in the SEC, but like, you know, I love the idea of a yearly UConn versus South Carolina matchup, and it reminds me of the Tennessee versus UConn matchups. But what do y'all think? Do y'all think that this is that? Do you think that that this rivalry can sort of live up to the previous rivalry? Let me know y'all thoughts in the comments below, because I think this is I think this is very helpful for the evolution of women's basketball. And I love this matchup. I really do. Because you have, the amazing Dawn Staley, who is just, she's a phenomenal player, but this lady can coach. She really can. You have her going up against, the legendary Gino Auriemma, and she has bested him in the past. And I think it's gonna be a very close game for sure. And I'm very, very excited to watch this game. So if you all want to know the game that you need to watch for this upcoming season, it's this game. February 11th, mark your calendars. UConn versus South Carolina. This is gonna be phenomenal. Make sure to watch it. All right, that was a huge pivot or whatever. But okay, back to it. So last year, South Carolina went an amazing 36-1 for the season, and we all know they play in the SEC. So let's kind of talk about my thoughts about this. So overall, I think UConn has set up a very challenging non-conference schedule to help prepare them for the postseason. They'll face 8 teams that were ranked in the top 25 last year, including some highly anticipated matchups against South Carolina, UCLA, Louisville, and Notre Dame. To me, this is going to be really, really fun to watch. Those are some really fun games to watch. Of all the games that UConn plays this season, those are the 4 that I am going to make sure I am able to watch live. They're going to be fun. And I think South Carolina will wind up getting the win against UConn. I think UConn does lose one game in their non-conference play. And that game, I feel like it's like a 90% chance that South Carolina is going to get the W in that one. But we'll see. I love, just watching a good game and being proven wrong based off of just how folks are playing. So it should be fun. As I mentioned, Dawn Staley is an amazing coach. I think she's going to give Gino Auriemma a run for his money. I also think that UCLA game is going to be super competitive as well, just because I think Lauren Betts is going to have a breakout year with UCLA. After watching Lauren Betts play in the AmeriCup tournament and just sort of seeing what she was able to do this summer, even though the US didn't win the whole thing, I thought Lauren Betts was really good. And I just can't wait to see her play for UCLA. I think her, Kiki, charisma, I think they're going to be a great matchup. I really do. And I am excited to watch them play. I do think that game is going to be very competitive. UConn likely will come out with the W, but who knows? Maybe UCLA will best them. Same thing for Louisville. Same thing for Notre Dame. I think these are going to be very competitive games. I do think UConn ends up with the win, but you kind of never know. It depends on how things go for UConn in terms of injuries. UConn has had a terrible track record in the last several years when it comes to injuries for players. And so, of course, not wishing anything on anyone, I hope and pray that everybody has a very healthy year, UConn and other teams. But they have a horrible track record. So it's possible that there may be some injuries coming up for them. And if they do have injuries, I see them losing, some of these games. But yeah, anyway, I think they'll end up losing just one game or more. Just sort of depends on what happens in terms of the players and if they can stay healthy. And also it just sort of depends on who's going to show up at the right time. So it should be a very, very good season. I'm happy that UConn has given themselves a tough schedule. I think they did a phenomenal job scheduling this season. Just because the Big East, they're not, the Big East isn't the worst. They have some players like Villanova, and others that have done some stuff and have been competitive in the tournament and whatnot. But the UConn playing the teams that they're playing in non-conference, I think will truly help them for their seeding in the tournament, as well as their overall performance, because they are playing against tough teams. So it should be really fun. Now it is your turn. I really want to know what your thoughts are regarding UConn's schedule. Do you think it's competitive enough? How many losses do you anticipate UConn having? Also, are you looking forward to the South Carolina game? Do you think this is the most important game of the season for women's basketball? Let me know in the comments below. Yeah, I just want to really know what you all think. Also, let me know, is this South Carolina versus UConn like Tennessee versus UConn? Let me know. I really want to hear y'all thoughts about this. Stay tuned for more non-conference schedule analysis in the coming weeks. Thank y'all so much for joining. I really appreciate y'all. If y'all found this video informative or helpful at all, please give it a thumbs up, and also consider subscribing for more women's basketball coverage. This channel has just reached 5,000 subscribers, and I'm so grateful. This channel is not just me. This channel is a community of people who love women's basketball, who love to talk about it, who love to argue about it, who's very passionate about the game of women's basketball. Y'all are the people who have made this channel get to where it is. Y'all are the people who determine the future of this channel. Like this channel is not just for me to talk. It's for us to sort of talk together and share our thoughts and opinions together. So if you have not subscribed to this channel, I ask that you join the crew. Join the crew of people who just love to talk about women's basketball. Until next time, guys, you all are awesome. I hope that you have a great rest of your day. Till next time, guys. Bye.